Welcome, everyone, to the Maine Take, where sports talk straight from the 207. I'm Evan with Chris. Today is our first episode. Chris, I am excited for this. Are you?
Man, I'm really fired up. So we're actually recording this on April 13th. There's a lot of good sports stuff going on, stuff that we won't be able to talk about because it's happening live.
Yeah.
We got Masters Sunday.
Yes.
Bryson DeChambeau just took the lead.
Yeah, the lead. Rory started with 2 bogeys.
Yeah, not
So
good.
I want to take a second. We got other stuff planned. We got other segments we're going to talk about. But just quickly, because it's Masters Sunday and, we appreciate the sport, Rory comes out, massive round yesterday. Six under, couldn't be stopped. It was like watching Tiger almost. Like he was, mannerisms, everything was perfect. Comes out and he bogeys the first 2 holes. Are we seeing typical choke Rory here?
It's funny. I actually saw a post yesterday, and somebody, it was like a post about how well Rory did yesterday, and somebody last night had commented, "Yeah, well, we'll see how he does on Sunday."
Yeah, well, so we'll be following that for you guys. Obviously, this is going to be posted afterwards, so you'll already know.
You'll already know.
But
also, Garrett Crochet right now, perfect game through 5 innings.
For Red Sox fans?
Right now, 7 Ks. Last time I checked, 7 Ks. So we're definitely going to keep our... So if you see us checking, it's because, we're on a perfect game watch right now.
Yeah,
so
we're going to be...
how it goes.
We'll be watching all of this as it goes down. And obviously, you guys will know it after the fact. But we'll be doing some live streams coming up, too.
Absolutely.
Stay updated. So we're going to start off by talking about the baseball...
The baseball.
The
sport. The baseball. Yeah, so
I
actually, we came up with a few topics to talk about through, we're mainly football, baseball, and basketball fans, so we kind of came up with topics. Obviously, we'll touch upon other things. So the topic that I have here, is baseball fun again? And I think that's a really good question to ask. As I pull up my statistics here. So is baseball fun again? Obviously, a few years ago, they had the rule changes, the pitch clock, which shortened the average game down half an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And, on paper, you may say, half an hour's not that long in the grand scheme of things, but as somebody that watches baseball, like you can't, it truly does feel more fast-paced. I don't think it's the total game length that feels slower. Feels shorter. It's the time between pitches, which is obviously what the pitch clock is for.
The time between innings too, actually.
Yeah.
They're pretty much on a go.
Absolutely.
We went to a Red Sox game this last September, and it was like, you're talking. I've been to Red Sox games that were 3-4 hours long, right? And I'm sitting there with my wife, and I just got back, got some Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots. And I look up and it's the 7th inning. I was like, we were only there for 45 minutes to an hour from first pitch. It was like, oh my word, we're about to leave. And for fans that, typically, especially once a game's decided, right, they leave, bottom of the 9th, top of the 9th. If the game's over, typically, regular season, we're leaving. Like it's speaking strictly about Fenway, but it's the city where we want to get out, traffic and whatnot. So definitely a game changer, I think.
Absolutely. I agree. The other thing, too, about baseball is the increase in base sizes. So they went from 15 to 18. This is all old news. We're just talking about is baseball fun again as a whole. So because of the increase in base size and the disengagement rules, do you want to guess from 2022 to 2023 when those base running rules went in, do you want to guess how much more stolen bases happened between 2022
like a percentage or number?
A number.
Would you be willing to give me the first number or nah? Am I just gonna straight guess?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go stolen bases. I bet you it went up. I'm gonna say the change difference because I obviously don't know. I'm gonna say it went up by at least 75 to 100 bases.
1,000.
It went up 1,000.
So there were an extra 1,030 1,000 stolen bases from 2022 to 2023.
1,000.
Yeah. The number went up from 2,700 to 3,800. I didn't put down the exact number, but I just marked down that it was 1,000.
That's crazy.
Steal jump.
Now, do you think that how many of those were on the second disengagement or whatnot? Do you think that played an effect?
I think obviously, it has to. If somebody disengages 2 times and now they can't throw over and check, The runner
Right.
knows this guy's not going to be able to throw over at me. You could realistically,
Right.
as long as the pitcher comes set, you could walk halfway, and he cannot come unset because that's a disengagement.
Well, can he come unset, and if he gets you out, it's fine?
So on the third disengagement,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. So-
but, at you got to think, like, man, who's going to risk throwing over? Because if you don't, that's a free base anyway if
Right.
you don't get him out.
I wonder if they disengage and the pitcher becomes unset, right? And the runner gets out there, right? They disengage, and then they get into like a pickle, right? If he takes second, does he now get third?
Wow, that's a really good question. I don't know. I didn't read the. I don't think so. I think it would be something similar to a balk. I think you just
Right, you just get the base you were going
Right.
to.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
absolutely.
Okay.
That wouldn't really.
That makes sense. I was just wondering. It's
But
an
that's
interesting.
a really good point because in the essence of disengagements, it's per the at bat, right? So that's a really good question because if he does get to second in like a pickle in a disengagement, well, you just did a disengagement and he did not get out. So the rule says he's supposed to get another. That's a really good question, but I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No,
I don't think
okay.
that's something I haven't personally seen. I mean,
Yeah,
you gotta
right.
think they play, 1,000 baseball games a year.
Yeah.
162 games, 30 teams. Like they play a lot of baseball. So I could have missed something like that. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good question. The other thing about baseball, and this is something that we touched up on that we've talked about a few times, is, dude, just the culture. Like it really does. Baseball has a long track history of having these unwritten rules.
Right.
They have their, depending on counts and scores and stuff, unwritten rules for hitters. And that's something that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the older players still care, but like bat flips, for example, that was a huge no-no in the unwritten rules. And I mean, I've seen people hit a home run and watch that thing go as long as it's in the air 15 seconds, and then they'll start going around the bases. Like,
Yeah, I think it's definitely a culture shift, right? Like you see it with all the sports, right? I mean, let's take basketball for example, right? The amount of 3-pointers people take, the attitudes now that you see out on the court more visibly than you might have seen, 20 years ago. And it's not, I think, necessarily that it's different in like that those attitudes and those things are there, but more so that people are just now doing it, right? So you definitely find a lot more of that. I'm going to hit this ball, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to, talk my talk, do my stuff, whatever you want to do. And it's people are now not fighting it so much, I think.
it's just, one thing that I've said to you before is all the changes, and we are about to get into a few. I have the stats and stuff of a few really, really good young players.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to get into those guys in a minute. But like the young stars and the swag that they bring to the game and just the way that the culture of the game's shifting, we are, in my opinion, we're kind of on a fast track to baseball becoming America's favorite pastime again. Like I see it. Like this year I was more excited for baseball than I have been for football in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And it's electric, and you could make the argument that the three true outcomes, strikeouts, walk, or home run, might be bringing the game down. Small ball doesn't really exist anymore, and you're either hitting a home run or it's nothing for the most part in today's game. But I mean, that's what a lot of the rule changes and the way that they made the balls and stuff shifted. The people doing the research said people like seeing strikeouts and home runs. So,
Yeah.
we're gonna juice the balls, and I'm talking about 2019 specifically, so that two teams shatter the record for most home runs hit in a season by a single team.
And you also got to think too. It's moving more toward excitement, right? It's not just about the game anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about fan engagement and excitement. So the way you do that is you create more exciting moments. Home runs, infinitely more exciting than singles, right? Strikeouts, infinitely more excited than groundouts, right? So you create these situations where fans now get to experience the game in a different way. That's where you get the bat flips in, right?
Yeah.
Like you get this whole new aspect of the game that people get to appreciate. As a pitcher, right? If I struck someone out in a big moment, I'm giving them a little bit of a flex. I'm looking at them, right? batters should be able to do the same thing. You can't say like a pitcher can like strike someone out and flex on them or give them a mean look, and then if a batter hits a home run, he does a bat flip, and all of a sudden, oh, no, he needs to be thrown out. Like that's just not fair.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think when you're talking about shifting the game to excitement, you could talk about the playoffs. They just recently, a few years ago, expanded to I think 2 more teams make it. 1 extra team in each division makes it, I think. There's 1 extra wild card spot. And the wild card game isn't even a single game series anymore. That's not a new rule change either. It's a best of 3.
Yeah.
You're getting in those. Now I understand it's a 3-game series, not a 7-game series, but if you go out and a team wins one and then that same team loses one, now you got a game 7 kind of feel here. Like it's all or nothing for both of these teams. There's no ground to give, and I think that the product is moving towards excitement. I think that we can talk about how, some pitchers, it kind of sucks to sit there and think about these pitchers as anything other than athletes, because when you don't think about them as athletes, you start thinking, okay, they're going to hurt themselves. We're talking Tommy John is almost inevitable for anybody that pitches a baseball now. But man, dude, something about when Aroldis Chapman, we were watching the Blue Jays game last week, when he threw 102, he's 37 years old. When he threw 102, man, you get fired up seeing a ball move that fast.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's so much about the athletes playing the game now. It's crazy. And speaking of athletes, talk about some young ones in the game. This is actually the first one I put down. Is one of my favorite. Like, it's just so he was 20 years old last year, 2024. It's Jackson Cherio. He's on the Brewers.
Yeah.
The first 20-year-old to go 2020, 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. The first Brewer to hit 2 home runs in 1 playoff game. He had a 791 OPS and 118 OPS plus. You know what OPS plus is?
No,
I'm a very big analytical guy.
Yeah.
So OPS plus, and there's a similar one that we're going to get into later called ERA plus. What it is it's a statistic that takes all factors of era, ballparks, like the stadiums that they're in, and it comes up with a number, an adjusted number where 100 is average.
Okay.
Right. So this stat allows you to look at people like Babe Ruth and put him next to Barry Bonds and be like the
get some
adjusted
comparison.
number. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if 100 is average, that means last year Jackson Churio, as a 20-year-old, hit 18% better than average. And this year, so again, we're early on in the season, he's hitting 302. Like, his batting average is 302 with a 916 OPS, which is good for 53% better than batters in the MLB right now. He's got 153
and he
OPS.
is 21.
He's 21. He's 21. He's on a really, man, I know that the Brewers had a tough start to the season. I love Christian Yelich, He definitely caught a lot of flack his MVP season because of the juiced balls, and rightfully so. I mean, he went from hitting, 30-plus home runs. He might have hit 40 that year to going back down to 20 when they got better balls in. So rightfully so, but he's just a fun guy to watch. You just love seeing a guy like that, and I love the Brewers are a fun team to watch. William Contreras, one of my favorite catchers in the game, because he's on my fantasy team, but that's all right. When you get
extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. A really fast team too. They have so many fast players. If you're gonna see small ball, you're gonna see it from the Brewers.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm excited for what the season is yielding so far. As a Red Sox player, the Red Sox just signed Christian Campbell to that contract. They're stringing together some of these signings that I think are really starting to show their commitment to their team.
Absolutely.
I know Red Sox fans, we can definitely we can agree that the last 4 or 5 years have been painful, and really there's a lot of argument.
Same since Mookie left.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why that are valid, right? And I think that as a Red Sox fan, I said personally I wouldn't go spend money on tickets until they started, signing people, giving effort. Now, obviously, I know they can't. You can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink, right? You can't force your players to play well. But you can definitely go get players who have proven that they can play well. And I think that it's been frustrating for Red Sox fans to watch all of this happen and not see success, not see the effort in trying. Now you give Crochet 170, right? You give Campbell, what they give him, 60, I think.
Yeah, 8 years.
8 years, 60 million. You're starting to sign these players that are proven, players that have promise. You have your Willier Abreu's who are hitting the ball, cover off the ball. Devers has come alive at the plate after starting 0 for what was it?
0 for 19 with like 15 Ks.
And I think it was like 1 for 30. I think he went on like he was batting like 0.85 or something. Now I think for the month of April actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like leading the batting average at one point.
Yeah, he was. To start off April, I don't know what he's at now for the month of April, but he started 0-19, and then to start off April, he was 10 for 19.
Yeah.
So he started hitting the ball really well. He had a over 500 batting average in the month of April.
So I think we, as Red Sox fans, have something to look forward to. I think that's exciting for baseball. Something I wanted to get into, Chris. I wanted to ask you.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the torpedo bats? Because I know, and I faced this with Red Sox fans for sure. Definitely because primarily it was the Yankees that kind of introduced them in mass use. So naturally, you're gonna kind of have a hatred toward it. But do you think that the torpedo bats are maybe a good thing for baseball and are logical?
I'm gonna be honest. The topic of this specific segment is baseball fun again. And I think torpedo bats is making baseball fun again. I remember the first time we had this conversation, I said to you that I think this is something that came 75 years way too late. This is something that they should have come up with, Barry Bonds. I mean, they pitched Barry Bonds outside, so, they were trying to keep the ball away from him. So maybe the torpedo bat wouldn't have worked well for him, but these guys that, they should have been hitting with this. They should have been hitting with this a while ago. Guys like Jose Canseco, should have been hitting with this. I mean, I'm only naming steroid guys, but Torrey Hunter. I think Torrey Hunter. I actually made a video essay off topic called the Hall of Very Good, and I have Torrey Hunter in the Hall of Very Good. I think Torrey Hunter should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not because he didn't play for a team like the Yankees. It's the same thing. Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
If Andrew Jones had the career he had for the Yankees, he would have been a Hall of Famer. You think of how many good players came through the league, and if they had this invention, maybe they're even better. They're on an even higher echelon of players. You got Anthony Volpe is hitting the cover off the ball this year so far. He's hitting. I think he's got like 3 or 4 home runs. He's a small shortstop. He's not supposed to be hitting the ball this well.
Well, and I think that it comes down to kind of an old traditional way of thinking where it's not the bat, it's the batter, right? Mm-hmm. So you use a torpedo bat, people should realize that it's still the person hitting the ball. Like the torpedo bat's not hitting the ball for you. Yes, does it change where the barrel of the bat is? Yes. And is that going to affect how easily you can get to the inside pitches? Sure. But it's also going to take away from the outside pitches. Like you're not going to have both, right? So, if the barrel stays, if you're using a regular barreled bat, you're going to be able to reach further and still have that pop and that ability to hit the ball farther when it comes to outside pitches. Now with the torpedo bat, you're not going to be able to do that as much. So I think it's a give and take thing, and I think that it's interesting, and no one's being forced to use it, right? You don't have to use it. You don't need to, and it doesn't break any official rules. So I say let them play. I say that this is good for the game. I think that we've seen offense increase, not necessarily just because of the torpedo bat, but I'm pretty sure the average batting average starting the season compared to last season is almost 10 to 20% higher, up to about 280 from what I've seen. Yeah. So I think that I like it, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Me too. Another guy I want to bring up here, Jackson Merrill, the San Diego Padre, just signed a huge contract. I wrote down his triple slash for this year so far in 2025. So he's batting .378 with a .415 on base percentage and a .676 slug.
He's batting what for the year?
He's batting .378.
That's crazy.
So that means he's got a 1.09 OPS And again, this is back to my favorite statistic for batters, OPS plus 207, which means he's 107% better than the average player right now at this moment. Obviously, OPS plus, I think that it would be, if there's somewhere to find, the OPS plus, but making the average based on how far into the season you are, that would be a really cool stat. I don't know if that exists. If it does, I will find it.
Or if it doesn't, we will create it.
I will not do that. That's for sure. Obviously, I put down Ellie De La Cruz. He had 67 stolen bases last year. He's off to a slow start this year, but I know he's a switch hitter. I think he should just bat from the left side. He hits so much better from the left side. Obviously, I don't know how that would translate against lefty pitchers, but if you see somebody who's hitting so much better from one side, you should just stay there. Yeah. I think. This is one thing I'm happy to put this guy down because he's a Ranger. Wyatt Langford. So I put down last year that he hit 16 home runs, had 111 OPS plus. But this year, oh my gosh, this guy, he's hitting the ball so well. He's got an 894 OPS and 158 OPS plus with 4 home runs already this early on into the season, which means he's a quarter of the way to his home run total last year. I think he played 135 games last year.
Yeah.
So it's not like a small sample size. So he's having a breakout year. And that's one of those things, man. You need, obviously, new stars to come in. And when young players show up and they're just hitting the ball real well, it's awesome. Unfortunately, by the way, before we keep going, Garrett Crochet walked a batter. He's still throwing a no-hitter, though.
No-hitter through 7. Through 7 now, yes.
Yeah, through 6. It's top of the 7th right now.
Oh, is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're
Correction.
Another guy I put down here, Bobby Witt Jr. So I actually have him as my MVP this year. Like, I know he's kind of starting a little slower, at least compared to how well he hit last year. So he hit 322 last year. He won the batting title, 30 home runs and 171 OPS plus. And right now he's at 150 OPS plus, which is still amazing. Obviously, it's a sample size thing. His numbers last year went through the whole season, but I do have him. He was a 9 WAR player last year.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I mean, dude, if Aaron Judge wasn't there, same thing with Jarren Duran.
Why don't you explain WAR, just for
WAR,
anyone listening who might not know?
All right, so WAR is actually, I lied earlier. So OPS plus is my favorite stat for hitters. ERA plus is my favorite stat for pitchers, but my favorite stat for players as a whole is WAR. So WAR stands for, it's an acronym, wins above replacement. And basically what it is they take a number, they have this, it's a very complicated formula. Do not ask me what the formula is. I do not know. I just know what the result means. It gives players a number, through each of their actions. So a base hit, a home run, they get an amount of WAR, and it's the amount of wins above what would be a replacement level player, which is just some guy in the minor leagues. Not anybody specific, obviously.
Right, yeah.
If they were to bring a minor leaguer up, how many more wins does that player provide to your team? Obviously, I think the top WAR seasons, not counting Barry Bonds and stuff, in recent memory, you're talking Mike Trout with 10. So if you're in that 7 to 10 range, you are having an amazing season. And Bobby Witt Jr. last year had 9 WAR. I think he's a favorite to win the MVP this year. I don't think he has to hit 322, which is what he hit last year to win the batting title. I think he's got to hit, if I'm Bobby Witt and I'm not Bobby Witt, but if I was, I'm maybe not hitting 322. I'm going to, maybe swing the bat a little bit harder, because if I hit 290 and hit 35 home runs, have 9 WAR, unless Aaron Judge does Aaron Judge things, which he very well probably will, I'm the MVP of the AL. Another guy who had, who I don't have down, but had 9 WAR last year, Jarren Duran.
Yeah.
It was a Red Sox. We got 2 more people I wanted to talk about. I didn't really want to talk about Paul Skeens too much. Everyone knows it's Paul Skeens. 1.96 ERA, 170 strikeouts, 2.44 FIP. FIP, for anybody that doesn't know, is fielding independent pitching. I think it's a more valuable statistic than ERA, because what it does is it takes the 3 true outcomes of baseball, which is the only thing the pitcher has control over: home runs, strikeouts, and walks. Yeah. And it comes up with a number. So 2.44 FIP is amazing. And right now he's at 10 Ks per 9 innings this year, which is awesome.
That's good.
The guy I wanted to talk about, Hunter Green. Now, Hunter Green has kind of been, he had a really good season last year, 3.47 FIP, excuse me. But this year, oh my goodness. He's got a 1.3 ERA and a 1.82 FIP, which is elite.
Yeah.
And you know that stat I was saying, ERA plus, how it's the same thing as OPS plus, but for pitchers?
Right.
This year so far, he's got a 323 ERA plus.
223 above
which means
average.
he is 3 times more effective than any pitcher in the
Dang.
league right now.
What's the next closest?
I have no clue what the next. I formulated my research based on age, so I wasn't looking all around. It's probably number 1 though. It's gotta be. It
has
there.
to be. I don't think any.
I mean,
to
Eovaldi
be 3,
maybe. Eovaldi might be up there.
Crochet after
Crochet.
this no hitter, hopefully.
Crochet's got to be up there, but just an amazing player, and he's on the Reds. It's one of those teams where you see amazing players come.
It's unfortunate.
Like Ellie De La Cruz. And, I mean, you're stuck there, bro. I mean, Hunter Green, you're stuck there till 2029.
Yeah.
If they don't start winning, leave.
Yeah,
Leave.
you gotta get
I'm
out.
sure the Dodgers will probably have the money.
Yeah, and they'll pay you until you're 80.
Yeah,
so.
they'll pay you until you're 80. They love those deferred payments.
Oh my goodness,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
man.
Yeah,
So-
baseball, man.
Is baseball fun again?
The answer has to be yes.
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 Yes, and
Very,
if you-
very exciting.
If you disagree, please sit down and watch a game. Go to a game. Do something. I understand baseball got a bad stigma over the last 25 years, 10, 15 years, really more likely. But please, if you haven't watched baseball in a really long time, sit down and watch it. It's fun. Watch a team like the Padres. They're a really exciting team to watch. I'm not a Padres fan. I'm a Rangers fan, and you're a Red Sox fan. The Red Sox are really fun to watch, too.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like an abusive relationship. It's like you. Am I wrong?
No.
Am I wrong? I mean, we get all excited, right, for what's happening, and then we kind of get beat down again. So hopefully that changes. I think we're sitting above 500 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a really tough division too. The AL East,
and it's so early. It's so early. I'm not worried. Hey, with Crochet pitching the way he is, and they have. Unfortunately, it goes Crochet and then kind of down to like a 4 and a 5.
Yeah.
But if they can piece together some wins and help him out, like I think that they really got a chance. I hope they move for like a pitcher.
So I think, so if I'm not in this position, but if I'm the Red Sox, if I'm a part of that organization, I'm looking around and I know, okay, we definitely need another effective pitcher. I'm looking across the league. Who is going to be a team? You can go out if you're looking at pitchers on non-competitive teams. You can go out. You can get maybe, if you want to send a package of prospects to the Marlins, maybe you can pry Sandy Alcantara away from them. If I'm the Red Sox, my hope, like if I'm in the state of mind of how can I make my rotation better, my hope is the Padres fall down. The Padres, this is going to sound bad. Maybe somebody gets hurt. They start losing games. They're not in a position to compete. They have 2 really good pitchers, Michael King and Dylan Cease, who are going to be free agents this upcoming season.
Yeah.
If I'm the Red Sox and the Padres don't look like they're going to compete for a championship, I'm going to go out and I'm going to grab one of those guys. Yeah. If you want to compete now, you do need a better rotation.
You can't go 1-4-4-4-5. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
You got to have a good number 2.
You have to have a good number 2. Now I know that Tanner Houck had a great stretch last year and whatnot. We're hoping that he kind of pieces together a couple. But I'm very excited. You're very excited. It's baseball season.
Baseball season.
So we're gonna take a shift. All right, and I just want to a mini segment real quick before we jump into our next topic. Rory is back out front.
Whoa.
Rory is back out front by 3 strokes. DeChambeau dropped to 9 under, and Rory back to 12.
Wow. That's
as of just now, and they're on the 5th hole right now. So within 5 holes,
maybe it's his year. you know.
Or the site glitched and told us wrong. But like that's crazy. If they swap like that and then swap back, that is
that's exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, man, there's some good golf going on right now too.
Good golf, good baseball.
Golf, man. And that's how I realized. You realize you're getting older when you look at those slower sports and you start to enjoy watching them.
Yeah. Well, they're calming. they're calming. You can enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next little shift here, I wrote down this title. I tried to think of a title for it. This is all I could come up with. Is the QB bubble? Is the quarterback bubble about to burst? Because there are quarterbacks that are making a lot of money that shouldn't be making that much money. So I have written down every single quarterback that's annual value. His average annual value, his AAV, is above $50 million. A name you're not going to see on this list is Pat Mahomes.
Really?
Yeah, who should, I think he's one of those guys that should be making that much money.
I disagree. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But so I have all these guys down, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna see where we kind of lay at with this, and a lot of this comes from, okay, well, would you build your team around this guy? So obviously this hurts my heart. I'm so angry about this. The number one AAV quarterback in the NFL this year at $60 million a year. The quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, my favorite team, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he should not be on that list.
He's got 2 playoff wins, guys.
Yeah.
He's a regular season merchant.
Yeah.
So he's got, in the regular season, he's 76 wins, 46 losses. Amazing. You got 2 playoff wins, dude. Figure it out, right? 31,000 yards and 213 touchdowns. The stats are good, but if you're talking like, if you're making that much money, you have to win. You have to be able to win. And there's a few guys on this list that, are certified winners. Like that guy goes out and wins football games, and they're making less money than Dak Prescott.
No, that's ridiculous. The fact that he can win in the regular season, but once it gets to the postseason, he falls apart. The moment gets too big, you can't compete. Definitely should not be making the most amount of money. If half that, like especially at this point in his career, right? Like we've seen it time and time again. We know the Cowboys are gonna typically start off hot. Now it might be different this year because they have a new coach and everything.
It won't. It won't.
So they're gonna start off hot, and then they're gonna fall off a cliff, and then all of a sudden it's going to be.
If they start off hot, their head coach has never been a head coach at any level.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, though. I wouldn't be.
But we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making is that you're gonna come into the season, right? The biggest market in football. You're bound to win a game or two, and if they win a game or two, it's going to be the first game or two.
Probably,
so you're gonna start off good, and then you're gonna fall, and you're not going. I don't even. If they happen to make the playoffs, they're gonna lose. Like. It's a scheduled event.
I can't even argue with that. Yeah.
Well, it's
the 3 things certain in life. 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose a playoff game.
I agree. All right, moving on.
This guy, $300 million man, probably should be the highest paid player in the league. Josh Allen, $55 million. He's tied with a few players at that number, but
does he deserve that?
Absolutely. I think that there are very few, if any, truly like quarterbacks that I would build my team around if I'm in charge, right? I mean, this guy's electric. Of course, I get a little fired up for players like Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield, the kind of quarterbacks that are going to try to go out and truck a linebacker.
Yeah, run.
You just get me fired up.
All right, so I'm gonna propose something to you.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go through this list, but my opinion is that no quarterback should be making that money.
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't think guys deserve and should get are 2 different things, right? Like if you're going to take the talent, like you said, in a bubble, in this sense, right, and say, okay, kind of like a scale, like out of whatever quarterback we talk about who deserves that money, I agree. Josh Allen's
absolutely
at the top.
No,
Patrick Mahomes would be at the top. But when we're talking about in the reality of the dollar amount they're getting, they should not be getting. They should not be taking up $60 million a year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and you're talking about something that we're definitely going to get into after this too. Man, you're making that much money. What are the weapons looking like?
Exactly.
And vice versa, and that's what we'll get into in a little bit. Next to Josh Allen, tied up there with two other players after him at 55 million. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty. He had 4,900 yards last year, 43 touchdowns.
MVP season?
No, because that's what I wrote down. I wrote down a bad start ruined his playoff and MVP chances.
Yeah.
If the Denver Broncos would have lost to the Chiefs last year in Week 18, my mistake, because they played their backups. They would have snuck into the playoffs
after the horrible year that they had.
Yeah, and if they snuck into the playoffs, I know Josh Allen had a great year. You cannot take the MVP award from Joe Burrow if he makes the playoffs.
I don't think. Okay, personally, all right. I have a bone to pick with the MVP award because I think Joe Burrow deserved it. Right.
You're not talking. You're the player. It's MVP. The acronym stands for
most valuable player, not most valuable player on most valuable team.
Yeah, not most valuable player on a winning team.
No, it's who makes the most difference in a game. Period.
Right.
And I would argue that's Joe Burrow last year.
Joe Burrow statistically, yeah, but if we're really talking about who was the most valuable player in the league, I mean, it's got to be Jamar Chase. I mean, Triple Crown winner. Joe Burrow doesn't throw for 4,900 yards and 43 touchdowns if Jamar Chase doesn't have the season he had. 17 touchdowns.
But Jamar doesn't get the ball unless Joe Burrow's throwing it to him.
Exactly. No, you're right. And that's why it's a quarterback award.
That's why it comes down to. But if we're going to talk about out of all the quarterbacks, he needed to win that award, in my opinion. I mean, you're how many 4,900 yards?
4,900
and almost snuck into a playoffs with a defense that was letting in on average almost like 30 points a game or something like that. Like it was
it's
horrible.
It's not looking good this year either.
It was horrible.
Not looking good.
And they were still in contention. So that shows you how valuable he is to that team. I mean, they kept T. Higgins and he has people to throw to, but they need to have someone who can get them the ball when the offensive line breaks down and he's scrambling the entire time.
So I think that my bold prediction here is, I don't know if it's going to be this year, but because of the way the money is dispensed throughout, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, I think that you're looking at, a record-breaking season coming up. Like, Joe Burrow will have a season because unless they drastically improve the defense through the draft, which I'm sure is the hope, I'm sure that's the game plan, Joe Burrow will probably have the ball more than any other quarterback because his defense is worse than just about every other quarterback's defense. And he's got an amazing offense. So, you're looking at a guy that could go out he could go out and throw 57 touchdowns. He could break the record. He could go out and throw 56 touchdowns, and he could go out and throw 5,200 yards, and we could have a new record holder. I don't see...
Yeah, I think that the fact that they lost to the Patriots last year, they're one of 3 wins, should tell you how bad that team was.
So Joe Burrow worth $55 million? Outside of your in the little talent bubble.
In the talent bubble, yes.
Okay, I put down yes as well. Oh, this one hurts because I was so big on this guy coming out of college, and I was so big on him his first few years in the league. Also tied at $55 million. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence.
Awful.
He had
awful.
He had one really good moment. He was down 27-0 against the Chargers in the playoffs. Came back, won the game, and then went to a Waffle House. That's the stuff of legends, by the way.
Yeah.
Coming back down 27-0, 4 possessions, and then going to a Waffle House. Yeah.
Congratulations, you're not worth $55 million.
I think that I put down that I think that he could still be great with the right coach and environment. I know they just got their new coach there.
Yeah, he had a bad situation coming in, right?
Yeah.
I forget.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, that's all you need to know about him coming in. So, then not only do you start with a bad situation, you go into a transition really early on in your career. You go through injuries, and so he's definitely had a bad rap. Funny enough, his numbers actually statistically aren't really that much better than Mac Jones throughout his career.
I mean, and it comes down to intangibles, but they got a new head coach there, one who was the highest paid offensive coordinator in history until he jumped to the Jaguars. I mean, that Buccaneers offense looked really good under him. So
Yeah.
hopefully now
It'll be exciting.
it's very hard for a coach to come in his first year and turn the team around, so probably not this season, but next season.
Yeah.
If Trevor Lawrence is going to be great, it's going to start. It has to start now.
For sure. How many seasons has it been? He was drafted in 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going into season
4. Yeah,
4.
2025
season. Yeah. He has to start picking up for $55 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So Trevor Lawrence inside the talent bubble, not worth it. I'll maybe give you 2 years, $18 million, Trevor. You can go play for my team. 2 years, $18 million. That's what. Another guy at $55 million, Jordan Love. So this one, I think that now you got the pros of sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. You get to learn behind one of the greatest,
Right.
one of the most talented quarterbacks. The con is you're sitting behind him, his rookie contract's running down. So he's gonna come out and he's gonna last year was his second year as the starter.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. So he got paid in the offseason. He had 1 year as the starter, and the Packers have to look at this and go, okay, well, he was amazing. He had a slow start, but he turned it around. He was amazing. This guy's going to be amazing, and I think he will be amazing. $55 million is a lot of money for a dude that only started 1 year.
Right. Well, like you said, the development time plays a big factor into that. They've invested, right, all this time. They drafted him and invested that time into this quarterback. He came out, and though he kind of had a rough start, he ended up playing really well.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so you look at that, you say, all right, so there's definitely shades of greatness here. He was able to kind of get through that season and really they made the playoffs, didn't they? So yeah.
Both
so,
years.
I mean,
he's won a playoff game, and I know because guess who they beat?
Yeah, the Cowboys. Surprising. So what I'll say is that is Love worth is he at 55 million?
Yeah, that's what he's at right now.
In our bubble of talent, I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say I would put him at 45.
So I actually
40.
Yeah, so I think that's really good. There's a guy after this next guy. The next guy's Tua. We're going to talk about Tua. The guy after him, I have in the same category as you, 40 to 45 million. Tua, I think, should be quick. He's making $53.1 million.
I think he shouldn't be playing football.
I think he gets, the concussions.
Personally, I think that he should quit while he's ahead.
So this is all I wrote down. So I have a decent amount put for everybody. This is all I put down for Tua. Of course, Tua, you got to respect. He's a professional athlete.
Love Tua.
Love him too, yeah. But, if again, we're not professional athletes, obviously. But if we're talking about the bubble of professional athletes, this is what I wrote down. Tua Tagovailoa, $53.1 million. This infuriates me. He had a good statistical season in 2023. He got hurt last year, and he isn't worth anywhere near this amount of money.
No, he's not. And if you look at it, because you got to look at the intangibles, right? You can look at the stats. And when he has Tyreek Hill, and when he has Waddle, and when he has...
You got to have a motivated Tyreek Hill.
Right. Yes. Right. A motivated Tyreek. When he has a Tyreek Hill putting up numbers, right? And when he has a Waddle who's able to get separation.
I mean, Tyreek Hill had more baby mamas this season than he did touchdowns. You know what I mean?
So, and he gets into trouble and whatnot. But let's say in a perfect world, right? You have the talent you need to perform, right? He can throw the ball and he's not bad. I like Tua. The issue with him is his injuries. And I mean, it's getting to a point now where is he worth the investment of $50-something million? And then he goes out there week 2 and gets concussed and can't play football anymore. I mean, not only am I worried for this guy's safety, but, which is my primary worry. But, if you look at it from a financial perspective, you're going to,
from a business
perspective, you're paying for an asset of yours that might go down and not come back up.
Right.
So I don't think 50 is worth it.
I mean, kind of going off what you said, I think it's hard because obviously you don't want to see people get hurt. But if he gets cleared, if the doctors have cleared him, if professionals have cleared him, experts, whatever, and he wants to play ball, let him play ball. Is it scary? Yes. Every time and it's not Like every time he gets hit, every time he hits the turf,
Oh yeah,
I get worried. I get worried. You know, it's one of those things. He doesn't get tackled well.
Yeah, I'd put him like. I feel bad for saying I can't put him below Love just because I think that he's definitely a more talented quarterback. But for his health situation, I think I think 35, 40 for me personally.
All right. Now, this is the guy I was talking about, the guy that I also have $40 to $45 million, Jared Goff. $53 million, just a little bit less than Tua. Statistically, has been among the best quarterbacks since his second year in Detroit, and they're a very scrappy team. Very.
How old is he?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, 31, 32. It's got to be right around there.
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking at a quarterback who's, if he's 31, 32, actually, that's
30. He's 30.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he's in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I might put him near 50, honestly.
They got a good team: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery.
Yeah. I think with the talent around and whatnot, if they're able to keep that team, I think I don't mind the 50, 45, 50.
And the Campbell, the coach.
Yes.
Really, really scrappy coach.
Yeah.
I love the. Yeah, man. We may get get beat up, but we're coming up with someone's kneecap. Like very scrappy.
I think that style of coaching has really brought Detroit.
I put down. I think he's a tier below that. I think I would pay him $40 to $45 million because he statistically has been one of the greatest quarterbacks, probably statistically the best NFC quarterback over the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
2 seasons. Sorry. But he is the type of player that, and I guess you could say this about most quarterbacks, but when we're talking about this much money, you need to be an echelon above. He's the type of player that the Lions can win a Super Bowl with him, but they can't win one because of him. I know you're talking about a team sport, but, he's not, in my opinion, I don't think he's a difference maker like a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. He's not a playmaker like that.
Well, he's your pocket passing quarterback. He's not necessarily mobile. Like when you watch him, he doesn't have like the speed that other quarterbacks have.
And I don't think you need speed because I wouldn't say the same thing about Tom Brady. You need to have something.
No, his mind's probably his like Brady because it's kind of the same build as in how he plays. He doesn't have the speed. He's definitely not strong like Josh Allen. He's not trucking linebackers. He's analyzing the game. They're throwing in trick plays, right? His mental aspect's the best. I'm gonna disagree with you. I'm gonna disagree with you on this one.
If you're gonna win a Super Bowl because of Jared Goff, he wouldn't have thrown 3 interceptions, and they would have beaten the Commanders last year in the playoffs. They were the better team. They were the better team.
Okay,
and I know what you can say, yeah, but it's the playoffs. Yeah, but it's the playoffs. Exactly, that's my point.
Right, but one instance isn't gonna, determine the entirety of one's career.
No.
I mean, Brady had games like that where he lost and whatnot.
Playoffs?
Yes.
He threw 3 interceptions in a game and lost the playoff game by 3 possessions.
Not necessarily 3 interceptions. What I'm saying is that he had games that were bad that people don't talk about because they weren't in the Super Bowl because he's won so many Super Bowls.
Cool, congratulations. Go win 2 Super Bowls, Jared Goff, and I'll forget about it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But what I'm saying is that he can. I don't think that I'm going to say that he's not worth that upper 50 based off of the fact that he had one poor game in the playoffs.
No, he's a product of the environment around him. You know what I mean? If Jared Goff... now, I know he got traded. The Rams had a really good team when they traded for Matthew Stafford. He wouldn't be statistically a great team if he didn't have, a statistically a great quarterback if he didn't have such a great team. I mean, name a better 1-2 punch in the backfield than Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. You can't. You can name, 3 or 4 receiving cores better than that of the Lions? If you're, obviously, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins has to be number 1. But Jamison Williams, when he's on, really great player. He's his consistency with trouble is the thing. His consistency with trouble is a problem. But Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, like the offense is just one of the greatest offenses of all time. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that if they had that team, they would have went to the Super Bowl last year. And Jared Goff's not one of those quarterbacks. In fact, I think the guy underneath Jared Goff might have gone to the Super Bowl with that team because he's got a better arm than Jared Goff. There's so many players in the league, so many players that have been in the league that if they're in that position, they make it to the Super Bowl. And he didn't. He threw 3 interceptions and fumbled the football.
He had a bad game. I don't disagree with you. But what I'm saying is that I don't think it's not possible for him to be the cause for a team to win. I think that saying that he can bring a team to win but not be the cause of them winning, the primary cause, is not necessarily, I don't think that that's the absolute truth. I think that it was the truth this last year. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But I'm not saying that I don't think it can't be, especially with the coaching that he has behind him, which also, by the way, I think could be argued duly hurt them, because though I love the aggressiveness behind it, you have a coach that took a lot of chances. So, I think that I agree. He's in the upper payment of like 40, 45. I would personally, after watching him, I like his play style. I'd put him in the 50s. I wouldn't put him 55, 60. I wouldn't put him Dak Prescott. I'd put him 50.
I wouldn't put Dak Prescott, to be honest. All right, man. Well, we're all entitled to, obviously, our own opinion, and that's great. I have such a hard time grasping the fact that
we'll see this next year.
Yeah,
we'll definitely see.
And I love Jared Goff. I hope he goes. I hope he wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I think that was America's team this.
Absolutely.
I think playoff season.
I wanted the Lions to win. Absolutely. The guy I have underneath Jared Goff. Oh man, I'm probably gonna have a hot take on this one. Justin Herbert, $52.5 million.
Let's talk about interceptions, okay?
Now, I wrote that down, by the way. So here's the thing. I put down one of the most naturally gifted quarterbacks I've ever seen. Like, just naturally. When we're talking size, we're talking arm strength. I wrote down verbatim, he has a bazooka attached to his arm. He averages 4,500 yards a year. That is carried by his first 3 years, but, 4,500 yards a year. He's one of those guys that can be an MVP caliber player if he's in the right system, and I think he's in the right system. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to do even better next year. And I put down, big question mark paying him this much money with the playoff track history. The aforementioned 27-0 choke job.
Yeah.
And the 4-pick game against the Texans. I did put that down. Now, however, Justin Herbert is in a situation where he is naturally a better quarterback than Jared Goff. The arm strength, the size, the intangibles, the physical aspect. He is naturally more gifted than Jared Goff, which is why I said what I said. Now, Jared Goff has a playoff win, though. He does. Justin Herbert does not.
So where do you put Justin Herbert? Where would you? What is he at right now?
So Justin Herbert's at $52.5 million.
Okay, so is that a yet? So does Justin Herbert deserve $52.5 million?
I think if you look at the playoff track history, it's a little hard, but I think in the talent bubble, if you're just looking at pure talent, I believe wholeheartedly off the top of my head, I could maybe name 3 or 4 quarterbacks that I'd rather build my team around. Maybe. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and maybe CJ Stroud, maybe, but like if we're like, it's a natural gift. It's something that Ben Roethlisberger had. Ben Roethlisberger was naturally gifted. He was huge. He had a big arm.
So here's my thing. You can be naturally gifted and dumber than lead.
Absolutely.
And I think that I would rather have a mentally gifted quarterback than a physically gifted quarterback, because the physical abilities can't make up what the mental abilities give. Now, the mental abilities can't allow for the different situations that the physical abilities will allow, like those triple threat quarterbacks, right? It makes it harder for defenses to game plan, for sure, right? Because now you gotta put a spy in there because your quarterback can run, all these things. But I would argue that the mental ability can make up more so for lack of the physical ability, especially when you're talking about the pool of what is professional athletes. So I would put Herbert below Goff personally. Especially because of his amount of the picks. I mean, how do you go from winning 27-0 and lose to Jacksonville.
Yeah, man, that's tough.
That's pretty atrocious.
Tough, you're right. Two more guys, and then we'll segue into a smaller football thing before we talk about the NBA. Lamar Jackson, $52 million. This should be a short discussion. I mean, come on. He's one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen. 4,100 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns. Those are just passing stats last year. Another guy like Josh Allen that just needs to overcome Pat Mahomes and get over the hump in the playoffs. I will not be surprised if he wins a Super Bowl at some point. That's what
I think he needs to overcome the moment, though. Like he gets into those situations and he comes into the playoffs and I feel like watching him, he needs to settle down.
He had a great game when they lost to the Bills. An amazing game.
Yeah. He also threw 2 interceptions and fumbled the ball?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So you take away those 2 interceptions, you win the game.
Right. And you almost win the game anyway.
Right.
Andrews with the drop.
And I think that's obviously an unfortunate situation. Mark Andrews will remember that for the rest of his life.
Mark Andrews catches that ball 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
That just happened to be the 100th time.
But, if you're talking about greatness, you're talking about $50 million, you're paying for that moment to be the opposite, right? You're paying not to have the moment because you didn't throw the 2 picks and fumble the ball earlier in the game. So if you want, I think that when we like Jared Goff, for example, right, he had such a bad game, right? Worst game, I understand statistically, pretty much in every category. But when you're paying someone 50 some odd million, a natural talent like Lamar Jackson, you have to expect those things to not happen, and that's what he needs to do to win. I mean, other than that, that's.
So what about in the talent bubble?
In the talent, as in compared to everyone else.
Yeah. Is he worth $52 million? He's making less than Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, no. So I would agree with you that he on his physical ability and what he can offer the team.
He's got one of the best passer ratings.
No, he definitely deserves more than Jared Goff.
I'm not saying it's not even like a mental thing.
I think that what he's being paid in the talent bubble we're talking about is fair. I'm just saying overall, I'm disappointed in him because I expected him to have a Super Bowl by now.
Absolutely, and it's throws the ball really well for a running back. That's the joke, right? That's the bit. No, but he truly does. He's got an amazing passer rating. And then the last guy we're going to talk about, I think that Jalen Hurts, $51 million. I think he's worth it, guys.
2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win in the last 3 years, and they not just a win, not just a win.
The real score of that game's 40-6. I don't care what the final score says.
Which all of America, besides Kansas City, I think really appreciated. I am a Patriots fan, so I'm not a huge fan of the Eagles for very good reasons, but I will say I was pretty happy that night.
I actually put this is really weird. I figured that some people might argue against Jalen Hurts being worth this much money because he only threw 18 touchdowns last year because of the way the offense was run.
Right. Well, I mean, when you have Saquon Barkley putting up, almost breaking the single season rush record, that's you're gonna have that.
I put down, but his performance in the Super Bowl, which was 293 total yards and 3 touchdowns, a Super Bowl win. Another Super Bowl appearance and a Super Bowl MVP backs up the fact that he's worth $51 million.
Yep, it's hard to argue against when he just won. I know football is a team sport, but I mean, it's not just like he eked it out either. They dominated and he looked good.
He had to. This isn't a knock on Saquon. The game plan around Saquon was amazing. He wasn't able to get anything going.
Stop Saquon.
Jalen Hurts had to play well.
Force Jalen to play.
Yeah,
and then he did.
He did. He's a stud. Another small football thing, and this is something that we touched up upon earlier, is, and it's another contract conversation. You're talking about guys like Jamar Chase. Does paying guys like Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb's a perfect example, but does paying guys like Jamar Chase really matter if your quarterback isn't a stud? I mean, does the fact that CeeDee Lamb's the 3rd highest paid wide receiver and I think like 5 or 6 in non-quarterback contracts, does it matter how good he is? Is he worth the money if your quarterback has 2 playoff wins?
Right. So I think when you talk about the proficiency of a quarterback and a wide receiver, they obviously both need each other. Quarterback needs someone to throw to, and the wide receiver needs a quarterback to be thrown to. You can't catch a ball that's not in your vicinity at all. Now, a quarterback can have a wide receiver who is not that great if they give them the ball where they need to be. So I feel like you're gonna want to put more, which they do. You're gonna want to put more emphasis on a good quarterback.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say that you need a good quarterback to make your wide receivers. Unless you have, we're taking out that upper echelon of wide receivers that are crazy. Your Jamar Chases, whatnot, that can pretty much probably work with anyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think you're going to need a really good quarterback.
So I think guys that are getting paid a lot of money, like, Stephon Diggs style contract where they're making $20+ million a year, like your Devontae Adams now. Maybe not your Devontae Adams in his prime, but your Devontae Adams now, your Calvin Ridleys. These guys are making a lot of money. Is Calvin Ridley worth $22 million if the person throwing him the ball is Will Levis? No, he's not.
No.
Now you're wasting money.
No.
Yes, okay, you have this guy who is physically gifted and physically should be a higher echelon receiver if you just talk about the physical aspect of the game and his ability. Is he worth that much money if your quarterback stinks?
I'm gonna give you a great analogy. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to make perfect sense for this conversation. If I grab this microphone, right, and we set this up, and I took an XLR cord that is broken halfway through that barely hears the audio, and I plug it in, is the microphone going to sound good?
Right.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
Right. You need that. You need the connection to be able to get the audio from the microphone to the recorder. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with football. You need a good quarterback to be able to get the ball, or a good enough quarterback to be able to get the ball to your receivers. Now, somebody would argue, right? Look at Brock Purdy. Great example of someone who everyone says is a system quarterback. Fine. You can argue he's a system quarterback, but guess what? He is good enough to get the ball to the people who need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of the ones who would argue he's a little bit more than a system quarterback, and that's something we can discuss, later. But
Absolutely.
but I think that's a necessity. You can't have the ball get to a receiver that's not being thrown correctly.
Absolutely.
Look at Mac Jones. I mean, that's like
Yeah. No,
and
that's
Dak Prescott, all of those. Kirk Cousins on primetime.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Primetime Kirk.
Primetime Kirk.
So I before we get into the last talking thing, I wanted to mention Garrett Crochet's day is over. He did not go all 9.
No, he did not.
He went 7.1 innings pitched, 7 1/3, 1 hit, 1 run.
Oh, is it a home run?
No, actually. So it says he's only got 1 hit on him, and it was a single that scored the run in. So
It must have been
I
like a
assume
walk.
he must have walked him. No, he's only got 1 base on ball, so it must have been like an error or something. But 1 earned run, 11 Ks.
So one last topic we want to talk about before we let you guys go today. We're going to talk about the NBA playoff situation and what we expect, what teams we expect to perform, and what teams we think have the most pressure to perform. So we're going to start with the West. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of dumb it down to a player. I thought that would be interesting. Part of me wants to say just because you almost want to say LeBron. Yeah, I don't expect them to have a deep enough roster to be able to win a championship, but like you almost like that's something that you want to say because they just made the trade.
Yeah.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander,
OKC?
the best player on the best team.
Yeah, I think
in the West.
I think that's what I'm thinking for the West.
The MVP.
Yeah, I mean you're looking at a team that is record-wise far beyond. I mean, I think they're like 13, 14 games ahead in the West.
Right.
So I think that that when it comes to pressure, in terms of pressure, they've had their core now for a little bit. They built it. Shea is coming into his prime, right? You should be expecting a deep run, if not to the finals, from this team.
I feel like Shea, like a big chunk of his career, he's almost been underrated. Didn't really have a whole lot of expectations. Now, last season, people kind of started to pay attention a little bit, But as a whole, I think that he's been fairly underrated his entire. But now the pressure, it's funny, we're talking about pressure. The pressure's on.
Yeah,
people are you are the MVP of this league.
Yeah. You need to perform now when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, because now they're expecting you to perform.
All right, that sounds pretty. I think I'd have to agree with that. I will be interested to see. I think the Lakers have pressure not because of LeBron, but because of that trade. You trade away your best defensive piece to get Luka, who's one of, if not, arguably the best sole offensive pieces in the league.
Absolutely.
So I think that when in terms of because of the trade actions, the Lakers have a lot of pressure to start performing. Obviously, their championship window has kind of begun now. I would argue for what they're looking for. If you're trading for Luka now in his prime, so Lakers and Thunder. What about for the East?
Man, yeah. So this is tough for me. This one I had trouble with because the first person I thought of was Jason Tatum in the Celtics. I think that even though they, the Cavaliers have a great record too, I think that a lot of people believe that when you're talking about depth in a team, the Celtics probably have one of, if not the deepest rosters. When everybody's healthy, Jaylen Brown's have a little bit of injury concern.
Having some knee stuff going on.
Hopefully he can be on the court. Kristaps, when he's on the court, is a difference maker. I think he's one of the best pick and pop guys in the league.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I was about to agree with you. I think that if you have the Celtics all healthy, all on the floor, I don't think there's a team that's going to beat them in a 7-game series in the playoffs. Historically, they've been to the Eastern Conference 6 or 7 times out of the last 8 years. The finals twice out of the last 3 years. They won it last year. I do not think the Celtics play the same way in the playoffs that they do in the regular season, especially the last 2 months when they pretty much clinched the spot already.
Right.
You see a lot of resting going on, a lot of trying new things, new pieces. So I think the Celtics have obviously the most pressure in the East because they just won it.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. They
came into the season as the best team on paper. They didn't have the best record, but I think still you're going to, based off their pieces, I think most people would argue that they're the best team.
Yep.
And Missoula ball, I think, plays a part in that too. They play the style of basketball, which I know a lot of teams do with the threes, but you see it. They live and die by the threes. And it's pretty much the only way they lose a game, actually, statistically.
Yeah.
They only lose when they shoot themselves out of games because they shoot so many threes. And it's definitely conversations we'll get into a little later about the intricacies of that. But it's quite interesting how their plus minuses go up and down depending on how many 2-pointers they take. It's actually an intriguing thing. So I'm going to take the Celtics, and I'm going to take the Cavs, and not just because they're above the Celtics. I'm going to take the Cavs because of how they've been playing this year and the precedent they set, right? They said we're here, right? They're here to win. Spider's in his prime right now. I mean, Donovan Mitchell has been playing great basketball. I think that if you go out and you want to be called the Celtic Killers and you want to be that team that's next up, you have to make a run now. You can't go another year and say, oh, it's because of injuries, and you have to find a way.
Yeah,
I think that's my opinion at least.
So my answer might be a little shocking, but I'm excited to give you my answer. Again, I couldn't actually dumb it down to a single player in the East. I ended up with a team too.
Yeah.
And it is not the Cavaliers.
No.
And it is not the Celtics. It's the New York Knicks.
It's interesting.
Okay, we had a conversation a few months ago where I said to you, the Knicks are in a really weird spot because they are so much better than 4 and under when we're talking seeds.
Yeah.
But they are not near the level of 1 and 2. They're not near the level of the Celtics and the Cavs.
They're kind of at breakaway point where they're just not. They're in between.
Right, exactly. And if they want to have the stigma of, okay, this is a championship team, these guys are the 3 seed, these guys can go out and win it, they need to go out and prove that they can win a series. They need, and I believe that for the Knicks to have a serious threatening aura around them, like these guys can win the championship, they need to make the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Which means
the Eastern Conference Finals.
The Eastern Conference Finals, my mistake.
No, you're good.
Which means that based on seeding and the way that the seeding is laid out, I'm pretty sure that means that they would, they have to get through the Celtics. I think that if the Celtics win, no, it would be the Cavs. It would be the 1 seed that they would play. Right? You have to beat one of those teams on your way to the Eastern Conference Finals, in my opinion. And it would, based on seeding, I think it would be the Cavs.
Yeah.
Is who they face. You have to beat one of those teams in a 7-game series. Because if you don't, here's what's going to happen. You're going to come in next year, and you're going to have a really, really good season, and Jalen Brunson's going to have a really, really good season, and Cat's going to have a really, really good season. But you're not as good as 1 and 2. We know you're better than 4 through 8. But you're not as good as 1 and 2.
You're going to stay in that spot.
And you're going to stay in that spot.
What other moves can the Knicks make to build their team better than what they are?
I have no answer for you.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't. Maybe it's a coaching thing.
You went out
and Tibbs is a dog. I think Tom Thibodeau's a great coach.
I think if you don't win this year and you go out running back, win next year, you're going to have to get a coaching change because you have a very well-rounded team.
Absolutely.
Cat has been playing probably the best basketball
of his life. Right, and Jalen Brunson's playing the best ball of his career.
You're still, I mean, it's not just they're just underneath. They're a good level underneath the Cavs and the Celtics. At least definitely record-wise and honestly in play too.
I don't think there should be I don't think that there is really a single serious Cavs fan or Celtics fan that are scared of a 7-game series against the Knicks. So the Knicks need to make them scared.
Exactly.
The Knicks need to even if the Knicks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose to like the Celtics, you need to get the Celtics fans, you need to get the Celtics buzzing like, oh, these guys just beat the Cavs in a 7-game series, and now they're coming for us.
Right.
And if you can't have that, or now it's professional sports, if you underrate somebody, if you take somebody lightly, they're going to come smack you in the mouth.
Right.
It's the beauty of a 7-game series. If you take somebody lightly, game 1, they come out and smack you in the mouth, hold on. Okay, let's correct this. Let's make something happen here.
So,
you need to be a threat.
Yeah.
So the New York Knicks, in my opinion, have the most pressure to perform because if they don't, no one's going to view them as a threat.
And not to mention, if you talk about just the Celtics away record in the playoffs is the best in the NBA.
Absolutely.
They win more games at opponents' places than they do at their home court.
Absolutely.
And so, you come in and the Celtics have home court advantage. You're going to play the first 2 games there. You need to win those games because your chances are, and I know professional athletes, they're not going to think like this, obviously. They're going to think we're going to win. But statistically, you're not going to win the games at your home court if you're going to think, play out realistically what's going to happen. So if you want a chance, you need to go in and beat them in their own house, start off strong. I would agree. I think I actually like that take. I think there is a massive amount of pressure on the Knicks.
Absolutely. And speaking of New York teams, technically New Jersey teams, let's take a quick 5 or 6 minutes, man. I feel like we got to talk about it here. The draft's around the corner. I want to talk about the Giants.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I want to talk, what are they doing? They signed Russell Wilson. They signed Jameis Winston. Are they taking a quarterback this year?
I have no idea.
Are they taking Travis Hunter? What's your look at it? What's your take?
My take is this, all right? My take is that because of what they did, the logical thing to do there's a couple different logical things. I think that they need O-line, as much of many teams do. But I think at that high, if you don't trade back, you have to take Hunter or Abdul. You can't. I don't think those generational talents you can't let slip.
Absolutely.
You can definitely, obviously, if, they're not in a position defensively to say they don't need Abdul. They still need that piece, and alongside Malik Neighbors, you're looking at a receiving core now that you have the talent of though it's not as much as it used to be, Russell Wilson, who can throw a deep ball and throw a ball.
Absolutely.
So, you have that kind of plug-in that we talked about earlier, that a quarterback who can throw the ball. He's not necessarily the best, but who can get you the ball.
Super Bowl champion.
With 2 receivers who can then, in the area, as long as the ball's around them, can go get that ball.
Right,
So,
and you got to think maybe the Giants are sitting here. Maybe the quarterback class next year is better than this one.
Yeah.
Arch Arch if he goes, I don't think he has a reason to stay in college if Texas goes out and wins a national championship next year.
Yeah, no.
Arch could come out of the draft. I really like Lenora Sellers out of South Carolina. He's a big body guy who runs a 4.6 40. Now will he be a first round pick unless he has an amazing season? No, but maybe they see something that in the future, like next year, looks better for them long term than this year does.
And I think that it would be hard to justify taking someone like Shador or any quarterback in this draft, honestly, when you just sign those 2 guys.
Right, it doesn't make sense.
I think that you can use it as like a waiting period. Like, if you go out and win or get to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson, amazing. And can you do it? Unlikely, but it's
not with not the Giants. Not this year.
No, but when you're talking about, is it more likely to happen, or are you more likely to do better with Russell Wilson and Travis Hunter,
right,
or Shador and whatever they have?
Here's what I think. This is gonna be. I think that this is a fair take, and I think you'll agree with me here. I think that out of all the players, it is really hard for a quarterback to adjust to a coaching change. And I think the Giants know this is Brian Dable's last chance. And the last thing we want to do is draft a kid, put him with Brian Dable, and then Brian Dable gets fired, and we got it. So maybe that's something that's in their head. And we'll draft Travis Hunter, or we'll draft Abdul, which I think they should. I think the defense needs more help than the receiving core because they have Malik Neighbors. But, they're like, okay, and then we can draft a kid next year, and either Brian Dable will be here based on how he coached, or he won't, and then we won't have to deal with a coaching change situation.
Get the generational talent that's available now.
I mean, Arch Manning? that the Giants would love to have Arch Manning. Just the same reason that the Colts or Broncos would love to have Arch Manning. It's the story, man.
Yeah.
Or the Saints, because their father played for the Saints.
Yeah. I agree. I think that it's interesting. I think coming draft, we'll do some draft predictions coming up here. The draft's in a week and a half now.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the next episode.
Yeah, we'll probably hit that.
It'll be a big chunk of that one.
We're going to have to touch, when the NBA playoffs start, we're going to have to touch upon that. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this
Me too.
For this podcast.
And I am excited for the last 2 minutes of this podcast.
Yes. We're going to take you guys into every podcast. We're going to finish with a Talk Your Talk. Where we get to talk for
60
seconds a piece about what's going on that we're frustrated with, or that we're happy with.
We could go for a minute. We bring positivity.
Hey, and this doesn't have to be about sports necessarily. It could be about anything. So I'm gonna throw that in there because sometimes I might have to add a couple other things that are going on. but
and then my tire
went.
flat.
So all right, Chris.
We're gonna start your timer. Let me get one more sip in here.
One more sip in there. All right, Chris.
Count me down.
Why don't you talk your talk?
Geriatric Jones. Jerry Jones, I think you are a scrub, okay? I try my best to like people. I really do. You are at the bottom of lists that I like. You are at the bottom of the list of my favorite people. I think you're moronic. I think you're paying a guy that won two playoff games, $60 million and say, this is the guy that's going to win us a Super Bowl. No, he's not, because if he would have done it in 2021 when we had Amari Cooper on the team, when we had a great defense, when we still had Dan Quinn in the booth calling defensive plays. You got Mike McCarthy as our head. You should have kept Jason Garrett, okay? Because we want to win Super Bowls, and that's not what you're doing anymore. You won a Super Bowls in the 90s. Congratulations. What have you done for me lately? The answer is nothing. The answer is absolutely nothing. This is a travesty. It's a travesty for Dallas, and I live in New England, so it's got to be a real travesty if I'm this mad about it. You suck. You stink, man. I have absolutely... Ezekiel Elliott was my favorite Cowboy, and you ruined him. You ruined him.
I can understand. Well, not from a personal perspective for sure, but
that's personal.
The frustration when it comes to Cowboys front office decisions of late. All right.
Absolutely. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Evan. Talk that talk.
All right. I want to start out with saying how disappointed I am with the Celtics fans. I think that though I agree they have pressure to perform, can everyone stop saying that the Celtics lost the game, we're not repeating, it's done. Like that kind of mentality is so dumb when it comes to sports. Guys, it's a 7-game series for a reason. The Celtics have the best starting lineup. They have a deep bench, and they're playing different combination of guys and trying out different things, especially toward this last part of the year. And like they lose a game to the Heat, and it's like, oh my God, the Celtics are washed. It's everything's relax. All right, it's sports. Run it out. You're a fan. Right? Cheer your team on. I'm tired of Celtics fans being so worried and crying about every little loss. Like, you guys are spoiled. We've won 18 championships in the NBA. All right? We've been to the Eastern Conference Finals like 7 times in the last 8 years. Relax.
Time. Yeah, man. Yeah. If you got a problem with it, how about you suit up?
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Drop 30 points a game.
It's ridiculous. Tatum was like in the top. Like, I don't even know what percent of scorers this year. It's like, I can't.
Chill.
It's irritating. It's irritating. Well, this concludes the first episode of the Maine Take.
The first of many.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. And Evan, thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here, Chris.
Thank you for being here.
Tune in next time to the Maine Take for more sports talk and news.